Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1182A, and today's date is January 19th, 2017, and the title of the episode is China and Other Countries Are Dumping U.S. Reserves at an Accelerated Pace. Now, before I get started, I just want to make an announcement. I uploaded an interview with Joseph Meyer. It is on the X22 Report Spotlight YouTube channel. So all you need to do is go over to YouTube, type in X22 Report Spotlight. It will bring you to the video. Or you can come over to the x22report.com site, scroll down a little bit, look over to your right-hand side. You'll see the video there, and you can play it on the site. Or you can go to newssentinel.com. Same thing, scroll down a little bit, look over to your right-hand side, and you can play the video there. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Well, it looks like Theresa May, who is giving a speech, she is telling the power elite in Davos to back change or face public wrath. And we see right now that the Brexit is coming. We'll see if the central bankers go along with this. We'll see what they try to pull. But right now, we can see that the public, they want out of the EU. And we can see that everything that they said when the people were voting, where the economy was going to fall apart, business was just going to stop, it was going to come to a screeching halt, none of it happened. It was a complete lie. Now, we know the economy is built on a gigantic illusion. We know that eventually it will collapse. But what they were saying was a complete lie. Everything didn't collapse. And here we are today where they're getting ready to implement Article 50 come March. And we see at this point that the elite, they are stuck at this point because the public is screaming out saying, we want change. And it's not the change the government, the elite want. It's the change that the people want. And that's completely different from what the elite and the government want to do. We see here in the U.S. economic expectations, well, they have soared to 15-year highs. And of course, they're all out there saying it's Trump euphoria, it's unbelievable. But the real current economic situation, well, that is declining. So when we look at what is happening here, Bloomberg's economic expectation is shooting up, and Bloomberg's current economic situation is declining at the same time. And this shows us that, yeah, you might be hopeful, but what's happening in the real economy, well, that's really deteriorating. It's falling apart. Now, we see initial jobless claims. They have crashed to 44-year lows. And what's very interesting about this is that continuous claims, well, they are surging. So what we have right now is 1.74 million people were continuing to claim jobless benefits before Donald Trump was elected. In a mysterious fluke of statistical smoke and mirrors, last week's 2.46 million print for continuing claims suggests over 700,000 more people are now claiming unemployment benefits than before Trump was elected. So, do you think they kind of removed those individuals to make everything look a lot better during the election, and then after Trump was elected, they brought those numbers back and they said, hey, look, I don't know how this happened. It's exactly what happened. And what we're seeing right now is that we are at levels from 1973 in regards to initial jobless claims. Now, when we look at this, we do have to remember something very important. Every time initial jobless claims hit a very low point, we were in a recession. We saw this back in 2008, where the initial jobless claims was very low. We saw this back during 2000, 2001. And going back throughout time, we saw it every single time. Now we are at the lowest point that we've ever been since 1973, which tells us that we are ready for a major recession/collapse of the entire system. Actually, I think we're in a recession right now. John Williams thinks we're in a recession right now. And most likely we are. And you have to remember the government doesn't report a recession until many months afterwards. And they always go back in time and they said, oh yes, it started at this point. And we're seeing that retail is a complete and utter disaster. BCBG, well, they're planning to close stores and lay off people. All we are hearing right now after the holiday season, and remember, the holiday season is when stores take all of those profits and it allows them to make it through the rest of the year. And hopefully the holiday season was really good where they can expand. Well, this holiday season is so bad that stores are laying off and closing left and right. I mean, it just doesn't stop. But of course, they're making excuses of why all this is happening. Everything's going online. No, we already discussed this. We combined the brick and mortar and the online business. It hasn't gone anywhere. Today, the corporate media is out there and the government numbers are out there, and they're trying to tell us that housing starts, well, they are way up. They beat expectations. Single-family permits, they're rising to the highest level of 2007. Well, we know what happened in 2008 with real estate. Everything came crashing down. And when you look at housing, you can see that housing starts, permits, it's completely meaningless because most of them aren't completed, and permits mean absolutely nothing until the house is built and someone actually purchased it. So all of this that they're saying right now is completely meaningless. It's just like saying the subprime security, they're all AAA. And everyone should just believe that. And that's what the government is saying. That's what all the reporting agencies are saying. But it turns out they're completely garbage. And we can see what the government is still doing. They're still putting out the illusion that everything is going perfectly well with the economy. And they want this. They want everyone to believe that everything is fine. Now, something very interesting. We talked about student loans, how these students coming out of college, they spent a lot of time in college, they have a lot of debt, they can't pay it back because they can't find jobs, and the government came in and what did they do? Well, they took their loans and they based it off their income and divided over many, many years, like 30, 25, whatever it is. Well, we find out from the Wall Street Journal that many more students have defaulted on or failed to pay back their college loans than the U.S. government previously believed. Well, the admission came last Friday. The Education Department released a memo saying they had overstated student loan repayment rates at most colleges and trade schools. And the numbers are not correct, which means that the problem is much worse than we originally thought. And of course, they're saying this is a technical programming error, and this has been going on for many years. Yes, it's the famous glitch excuse. So how bad was the data fabrication? Well, when the new numbers were analyzed, the data revealed that the department previously had inflated the repayment rates of 99.8% of all colleges and trade schools in the country. In other words, virtually every single number was made to appear better than it actually was, and right now, it's a complete disaster. More than 1,000 colleges and trade schools, or about a quarter of the total, at least half the students had defaulted or failed to pay down at least $1 on their debt within 7 years. This is unbelievable. So the student loan crisis is much, much worse than we originally thought. Which means, how was the unemployment number down to 4.7%? Think about what's happening right now. Everything is falling apart. Truth bombs are coming out left and right. And of course they're going to blame everything. Oh, it's the weather. It was a technical glitch for over 8 years. And they're going to continually do this because the truth will be coming out. This economy is fake. We see right now that China, well, they have accelerated in dumping U.S. treasuries. Now, securities plunged by a stunning $66.4 billion in November. That's 2016. And it already plunged $41 billion in October of 2016. And now we see that treasuries are being dumped left and right. China's holdings now, the second largest behind Japan, are down to 1.049 trillion. At this pace, it won't take long before China's pile of treasuries falls below the 1 trillion mark. And it was China 6 months in a row of declines. Over the 12-month period, China slashed its holdings by 215 billion, or 17%. Japan is doing the same thing. They've dropped by 23 billion in November. Over the 12-month period, its holdings are down 36 billion. And the rest of the countries, well, they're doing the same thing. How do we know this? Because if we look at the international reserves, we see they've declined from 12 trillion down to 10 trillion. This is a decline about 10.12%. It is dropping right now. And we can see right now that things are actually getting worse. Which means the countries, they know something's up right now. Now, the CIA, they released a lot of documentation. And in the documentation, well, it exposes that they were manipulating the financial markets. They were completely manipulating what was going on. They were also manipulating the gold market. And we can see right now that there's a problem with all of this. Because the CIA is still doing it. Of course, they haven't released today's data. They're going back to the 70s, to the 50s. And they're saying, it's been long enough. Who really cares? Now, the classification of the documents is significant because secret is the CIA's second highest classification. The CIA notes unauthorized disclosure of secret information would cause serious damage to national security. And the CIA is under pressure from a lot of individuals and groups that questions the agency's relevance today. Even Jack Ma dropped the comment at Davos saying that the U.S. wasted $14 trillion on wars over the years. $14 trillion to keep this or their system propped up so they can make a profit, while the rest of the people have to work longer hours, get paid less money, live on credit. I mean, think what has happened over time. People say, well, I'm not enslaved. Yeah, you are. There was a time when you needed one person in the family to work. And that penny, well, you were able to purchase a lot of stuff with that penny. And then all of a sudden, you needed a gas credit card. And then all of a sudden, you needed another person in your family to work. Then all of a sudden, you were both working, and you still couldn't make it. You couldn't finance a car anymore. You had to lease it because it was completely out of your reach. And then you had to live on credit cards because the value of the dollar kept on declining. And over time, you are enslaved because you have to work more hours for less money. This is how their system works. They keep you in this place where you can't move anywhere. Yes, there are people that know how to game the system, but for the majority of the country, it's getting worse and worse as time goes on. And when you start adding in layoffs and the economy deteriorating, it gets worse and worse very, very quickly. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.